Good morning, the internet. It is I, Fran, from Underrated. My co-host Babs is in Luxembourg, so can't be here to do this intro of me. Today's subject is Americana. Or Americano. One's a coffee, one's a genre of music. The overrated choice is Mr. Bruce Springsteen, and our underrated pick is Frazey Ford. And we have a guest with Clare Ferguson-Walker. We do get off the rails a little bit, but hey, in live podcasting, anything can happen. So please enjoy this music podcast. See you in a minute.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, what are we calling this podcast?
Was it underrated?
Overrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Överunderskattad. Overrated.
And welcome to another episode of Underrated. It is me, Fran. Hello. And I'm not alone today. I'm with my co-host, Babs in Belgium. Hello, Babs in Belgium.
Hello, Fran in England. How are you today?
I'm splendid because I still get to go to gigs. How's Belgium?
Yeah, guess what? I don't. I was meant to go and see Arlo Parks in a few weeks' time. Nope, not happening. Although I have been refunded already. So, at least there's that. But yeah, we are in a sort of temporary lockdown before Christmas, see if it changes anything. But I have my booster shot booked already soon. So there we go.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But I am also aware that you still have access to music. So what have you been listening to in the past week or so?
Well, Fran, we are recording this the day after Spotify Wrapped. So obviously big moment, big times. So quite honestly, today I've been listening to my list of 100 songs. Some surprises there, some not. You have to check out our social media to find out what's been going on. And I think my biggest surprise was that PJ Harvey was my top artist, which shouldn't be that surprising in a way, because I did guest on Ryan from the Broken Record Players podcast. Shout out to Ryan, who also guested on one of our episodes. And we had to analyze Dry in depth. And I think that just set me down a PJ Harvey path. How about you?
Yeah, well, the podcast has destroyed my spot.
Oh, yeah.
I now have
I've remembered now.
a lot of Eurovision, a lot of ABBA, and a lot of the Ramones in my top listens. The things I do, guys, for you.
I saw that your top artist was Clean Cut Kid, who I have never heard of in my life.
Yeah, I'm seeing Clean Cut Kid, my last gig of the year, and it seems that I'm the only person who listens to them, and but I will be as a loyal fan, I will listen to them every day. That's why I'm up their plays. But I think I did have Group Love, who we did an episode on.
Very good. Well. Very good.
So there you go. But we are chatting and being very rude because we're not alone in the world of Zoom. We have an international guest in a beautiful country called Wales.
She is a comedian, a spoken word artist, and a sculpturist, which I think is a word. Clare Ferguson-Walker, hello.
Hello. It's very nice to be here in this Belgian English sandwich. This is where I find myself in the middle in Wallace. My absolute pleasure to be here, both of you. I love podcasts. Full stop. There we are. Yeah, and I love talking about myself. So this is just great. And opinions. And actually, what's been really nice about this is it's sort of just forced me to be quite mindful when listening to music. Music's often like the soundtrack to me cleaning my house these days, because if I'm not listening to music, I just have the inner monologue of, I'm being used as an unpaid workforce going on, and I can't get anything done. So when I listen to music, it kind of takes me out of that. But this, I sat down and kind of really listened to the lyrics, and had quite a mindful experience with this little playlist, which was rather lovely.
So apart from being forced to listen to these choices, what else are you listening to in your
this week I've been listening to LP. Do you know LP? Laura, I want to say Pagosa, or I should know, shouldn't I? It's Laura Pagosa Paloga, something like that, quite an Italian sounding name, but she calls herself LP, and she's absolutely amazing. This woman can sing, and she's got a really bold, incredible look. She looks like a young John Cooper Clarke. You wouldn't sort of think that at all, would you? It'd be the last person you'd think of when you hear a name like Laura. But yeah, her vocals are really, there's this amazing timbre in there, much like Frazey Ford, but actually with a slightly more operatic feel to it almost. And her songs are just big emotional ballads that get me right in the 80s. They get me right in my 80s feels. Bit of a sucker for that kind. And Disraeli as well. I've been listening to a bit of Disraeli and the Small Gods, which has been really inspiring, obviously, as a spoken word artist. Every now and again, I kind of force myself to listen to a bit of spoken word. Often I'm just like, oh, it's too good. It just makes me feel shit about myself. So I never want to listen to anybody else, which is a dreadful thing to confess and admit. But I have been forcing myself to listen to some the last kind of 6 months, and I really like him. I almost chose him as my underrated artist. Yeah, because I think he's just a lot less known than people like Scroobius Pip and obviously Kate Tempest, but he's really up there with them. He's really fantastic.
This episode, guys, we're doing Americana-ish.
Esque.
And we have 2 artists under the umbrella Americana. We have one we're declaring as overrated, as Bruce Springsteen, and another as underrated with Frazey Ford. More about her later on. So first, we are going to discuss Bruce Springsteen, and we have made a 5-track playlist for us to discuss. We have sent it to everyone, and we will go through the playlist whilst discussing our thoughts on Bruce Springsteen and then deciding whether he is over or underrated. So I'll start with Babs. Tell me your thoughts on Bruce Springsteen, or how you found Bruce Springsteen back in the day.
I'm just going to say that I've never heard you sound so professional in my life, and I'm fucking loving it. You can cut this out. Right. So Americana. So Claire, I have some things to declare. When Fran said, "Oh, Claire's picked Frazey Ford," I'm like, "Oh, I have no idea who this is." And then he's like, "Oh, it's a bit folky, it's a bit Americana." So we had a discussion, and he said, "Maybe we can pick Bruce Springsteen." And I was like, "Oh God," because I do not like Bruce Springsteen, and I generally do not like Americana as a vibe. That was what I thought coming in. Like, it's close to country. I can deal with a banjo or a guitar as part of a wider thing, but normally it's not for me. But as ever, I try to keep an open mind. And with Bruce Springsteen, he's come up before because Fran picked his song Ghosts for our Best of 2020 episode. So, as I said, he seems like a lovely guy with interesting politics. He's meant to have great shows. And I think it was really only this time that I really realized he has probably been going since the 70s. And it's still, that's super impressive. I checked the Spotify stats. He's 235th in the world and has over 16.2 million listens per month. So you can't deny that he's huge. But yeah, coming in, I came in tentatively. I think the closest I wanted to get to Bruce Springsteen was to see Blinded by the Light, which I still haven't seen. What about you, Fran?
I was thinking earlier, actually, how I got into Bruce, and I think I got into him through films. Like, he would appear on film soundtracks, and I go, "Oh, that's a good song. Well, that's a good song." And I never really thought about owning a Bruce Springsteen album. Obviously, I knew the big hitters, and but I think that, like, randomly, I got into Bruce Springsteen in about 2007. Because his last 6 albums have been brilliant. And I make a playlist of the best songs of the year. And he's made it virtually every 2 years, which is insane for someone I don't really declare myself as a fan of. But yeah, his hit rate for the past 15 years has been superb. And I put 2 tracks on a playlist from an album from 2009. And that was playing at HMV again and again and again. And I saw him perform that year in Glastonbury. And he was fucking amazing, and he was 61 years old and had more energy than any of the 20-year-old guys. I always liked Secret Garden from Jerry Maguire, and I've always thought, yeah, he's got some great songs which work amazing in films. I thought he may be overrated because a lot of people bang on about him all the time, and does he deserve being called,
the boss
of rock and roll or whatever? Does he deserve that acclaim? And I haven't really gone deep to discover if he deserves the acclaim, so I thought I'd give him a go. And yeah, how about you, Claire? What's your thoughts on Bruce?
Bruce, do you know, he's one of those artists that I've been aware of my whole life. I was a big kind of Top of the Pops viewing girl when I was young, so I grew up in the gosh, well, 70s and 80s. So I'd have been 10 in 1988, 10 in 1988. So I just remember Bruce being one of the sort of soundtracks to my childhood, really. And kind of huge. I loved Born in the USA as a kid. That just tied in with my kind of fantasy love of Americana as a child, along with Fame and Michael Jackson, Coca-Cola, Hollywood. You know, I absolutely wanted to be a Hollywood superstar as a little child. It's a big part of my life. So I think Born in the USA had that anthemic feel of like absolute pure patriotic Americanism. I definitely remember getting kind of swept up in that and singing it really loudly in the lounge. But never been a fan. I, never went out and bought his albums at all, or really kind of, thought of him as a favourite, but was super aware of how massively loved he is. His fans are many, aren't they? He's absolutely beloved, and known as the boss. Along with the likes of Elvis being called the king of rock and roll, Mike the king of pop. He was all, when superstars get to that point where they're given a title like that, that they've got to a level of absolute superstardom that's kind of right up there, don't you? So massively aware of him, and knew the big songs, but was never, I would never have called myself particularly a Brucey fan. I was too busy being in absolute love with Michael Jackson. That's who I was crazy about as a kid.
Overrated.
So, I have made a 5-track playlist, and I chose these songs as kind of like a career-spanning list of different shades of Bruce. And the first track I chose was, as a kid of the 90s, the song that I could not miss, which was The Streets of Philadelphia from 1994, from the film Philadelphia, starring Tom Hanks. I have not seen the film. I have to probably watch the film one day.
I'm surprised as a film buff that you haven't.
Yes.
I was expecting you to have, because I haven't either.
But when in your life are you in the mood for a film about a guy dying of AIDS?
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it's so true with all the choices out there. Yeah, I think the only reason I have seen it is because there would have been nothing else on the telly that night. Do you know what I mean? I saw it when it came out. Yeah.
I think I need to be in the cinema and forced to embrace it. It's probably amazing, but I just would not get around to it. So Streets of Philadelphia was played constantly. I believe it's his biggest UK hit, which is kind of weird if you think of Bruce Springsteen, but this is his biggest hit. But this is when he had moved away from the E Street Band, so he could do his own thing, which is why it's a stripped down approach. It's basically like a drum beat and him, talking over it in a very basic sense. Maybe that's like a 90s kind of thing. So unfortunately for me, because I've heard it so many times, I tend to just skip it instantly as soon as I hear that drum beat. So I wanted to think, how do you think, Babs? Did it affect your life back in 1994, or were you too young to?
This is the thing. So I'm a little bit younger, because in 1994 I would have been 7. But I do actually feel like it was overplayed. At the time, and I think it's just one of those songs. I don't know if it would be like on Magic Radio or whatever, but it is a sort of radio staple. So I actually really enjoyed hearing it again in this context, because I realized it had been absolutely years. I kind of hadn't realized, because I hadn't really paid attention to it since I was a child, that there was synths and they used very nicely. I really like the, la, 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 la. So and looking at the lyrics, it seems like it could be from someone suffering from HIV or AIDS, and it's very sensitive. And I was like, okay, do you know what? Absolutely, I can understand why this song is as big as it was. Although I couldn't help but feel a bit cynical about it. Like, do you guys know whether was it a song written for the film, or was it? Yeah, okay, because
it's the first time he's ever written a song purely for the film, and what we hear is his demo version. It was supposed to be a rock song, because he had asked Neil Young to do Philadelphia as the end of the film, which is a slow song, and then he wanted to have an upbeat rock song by Springsteen, and then Springsteen just sent him a demo, which is why it's got that basic beat, and then Demi, Jonathan Demi said, "Oh, I love this. This is the
okay.
song." That's how it happened.
Because I couldn't help but feel a little bit cynical about. I was just like, I don't know, is it a bit right? Got to write a song about AIDS. What am I going to do? Because he so obviously isn't, well, as far as I know, isn't queer, isn't suffering from this. I mean, artists, of course, more than welcome to play characters and write about whatever they want. But there was something with me that I was like, how real is this? You know, how manufactured is this, or not? That was my feeling.
Claire, what are your thoughts on the streets?
Well, but my thoughts are now many, listening to both of you. I'd never thought about that political perspective before, about the potential sort of cashing in on somebody else's trauma and cashing in on basically what was, a pandemic, the AIDS pandemic, which at the time that was made, it was still, there was loads of taboo around HIV and AIDS. It was still an absolute death sentence that people got, and massively stigmatized. So politically, it was a very important song, I think, for highlighting the plight. And I'm sure many people were drawn to watch the film because of the success of that song, which was, it's just a very, very beautiful, sad song. And that's amazing. I didn't know it was stripped down like that just for a pilot. And they heard it and went with it. It's got that kind of that sparse kind of, Lorde plays with that sparsity in a lot of her songs as well, doesn't she? Just that really crisp, simple rhythm, and him talking, and the video's quite simple, low budget. It's just him walking down a street, I seem to recall. I think it's beautiful. I absolutely loved that song when it came out. And I'd say I haven't overplayed it. I could gladly kind of have that playing in the odd playlist for me and still get into it. So yeah, definitely big tick for me for that song. I really love it.
It won an Oscar for the best.
Did it?
Yeah. But yeah, I should definitely watch the film. I think he chose Springsteen and Neil Young because he thought it would bring a wider audience to AIDS.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah,
and sense. I think it's kind of ironic, I did think this, of how he wrote such a patriotic song in the 80s when it was Reagan who was denying all of this. It's like, oh, it's the two sides of Bruce Springsteen. And of course you can be both. People contain multitudes. But I that's what made me be like, yeah, I guess this is a little bit cynical. Not that Springsteen would have been very pro-Reagan in particular, but yeah, to write such a patriotic song when this was obviously going on. I think with programs like Pose and It's a Sin as well, really bringing that to the fore and really seeing how people are kind of whitewashing how bad it was and how people were stigmatized, as you said, Claire. Yeah, it did make me think twice, but I can totally believe that they wanted to bring people like Neil Young and Bruce Springsteen on to get a wider audience.
Yeah, and to try and normalize the subject, and yeah, I agree with you. I hope the profits from that song went to the AIDS Foundation. It makes you hope that sort of thing, doesn't it? That at least they'll have done something a bit groovy with any profits. I have seen the film. It's really bloody sad, as you can imagine, but
still worth a watch. You'd recommend it?
Oh yeah, but I love an emotional film. I can handle a good old emotional.
Yeah, that's good. See, anything too emotional or too scary, for me, it's Saturday afternoon. It's like, all right,
really,
I'm not,
because sunshine.
I work vaguely a 9 to 5, but like I'm a consultant, so I manage my own timetable, but I try to kind of do a 9 to 5. So it's like, right, I'm not working. I have the mental capacity to deal with this, but I still have the evening if I want to do something fun to be able to cope with the
trauma of it. Yeah, I'm like that. I'm very moved by films, whether they be inspirational, funny, or scary. Yeah, I'm a bit of a sucker. I love the horror genre. It's like really fucking exploded recently, but that's for another podcast.
So I thought, let's go from the streets of Philadelphia to Glory Days as a massive turn. So this is basically, I know, the 80s Springsteen, but I kind of remembered with punching in the air and yeah, glory, and the buttons undone, dancing at a wedding. That was Glory Days. But actually reading the lyrics is actually quite a depressing song, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's basically saying, don't live in the past, guys. Move on. Don't be that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is. That's right. Yeah. Say goodbye to the glory days. Yeah, stop harking on about them. Yeah, it's a slightly interesting take on it, isn't it? But yeah, for me, I absolutely categorise that one with Born in the USA and Days of Thunder. Just even the titles of them speak of big shiny leather masculine gun flag.
Isn't Born in the USA an anti-USA song? Isn't that about like Vietnam?
Vietnam, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, so it literally is. Gun
I only
flag.
learnt that at a karaoke evening where like a politically minded colleague of mine chose it for karaoke, and he's like, by the way, have you noticed the lyrics? And I was like, oh, no, I hadn't.
Infotainment.
But I can see why people would hate Glory Days. It is slightly cheesy.
So annoying.
That-
Yeah,
that cheesy
I
song.
really can't stand this song. Yeah. Glory Days.
So
Yeah,
I
shut up, Grandad.
actually hadn't realized this was Bruce Springsteen. Like, I absolutely knew this song, but didn't associate it with Bruce. Again, I associated it with the radio. I associated it with, oh yeah, the kind of thing that in the 90s when I lived in the UK would play. And yeah, then I went to listen to the lyrics and I was like, well, this is pure Americana, and apparently it is autobiographical. So Wikipedia says it's based on like an encounter that Springsteen had with someone who played baseball in the summer of 73. So he carried that with him for 10 years to write this song. And it's, more palatable than a lot of Bruce Springsteen stuff. The country guitars are a bit muted and the synths, but Springsteen biographer Dave Marsh, he called it rinky-dink organ, honky-tonk piano, and garage band guitar kicked along by an explosive tom-tom pattern. I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of why I don't like Springsteen. The general, it's fine. This song is fine.
Yeah, I guess it's the Magic FM Springsteen.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, this is the problem. Like, I feel like Springsteen is someone who I only know about 4 songs because they're the only ones played, and yet he's someone who has 20 studio albums. I had no idea, and like I said, like it hadn't even clicked with me, despite Fran including one of his songs on our best of 2020. Like, oh yeah, he's still making music. So
next up I chose one of his classics from his, like, I guess the album that broke him, Born to Run from 1975. I got Thunder Road. I think this is when he sort of like moved away from being like a Dylan-esque singer-songwriter to, writing the narratives for the blue collar America, and, writing stories about, about romance, and having like, it's kind of feels a bit musical theatre, this song. And that kind of puts me off a little bit. I don't mind some musical theatre, but I don't think that Bruce Springsteen should happen.
Touch it.
Maybe, I don't know. Or it's also a little bit. It's kind of a bit like a working class Meatloaf. Does that make sense?
Yes, please. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been compared to Meatloaf.
Brilliant.
Not that Meatloaf is particularly, upper class, but
he's not royalty. But yeah, it's what. I think if you think of a Bruce Springsteen sound, this is it. The dancing piano, the saxes, the thunderous drums. This is kind of the Bruce cliche sound. So I thought I'd include this as you can't. I thought I won't include his 2 biggest hits because people have talked about Born in the USA and Born to Run a billion times. So I thought I'd include the other tracks from the album. So Claire, have you heard Thunder Road before?
I have heard Thunder Road before. I mean, it's another one, as we've just said, that's often on the radio, isn't it? And I'm sure, along with Born in the USA and the other big power hits, it would lend itself to some pyrotechnics live on stage, and you would hope that they're all standing far enough back. It's just got that huge stadium sound, hasn't it? And that's massively a big part of what he loves, just that huge sound that he knows is going to work well, performing live to thousands and thousands of people. And you kind of get the feeling that these songs have been written very much with that in mind. They're not sitting there imagining them as quietly sung, ballads around a campfire. These are absolutely written to reach out to thousands of people in one go. And it's driving music as well, isn't it? It's the kind of thing that reminds me of my first father-in-law, who was a bit of a sort of petrol head and a bit of a Quo lover and a bit of a Dire Straits lover and a Brucey lover. And he would play these songs, play these tracks while we were kind of driving to places, and he was showing off about his vehicle. And other manly things. So it's got this real sort of, I just think of it as being a bit sort of stuffy male. Sorry. sort of terrible thing to associate it with, but I think that's what I associate it with an older man trying to impress a young woman.
What is interesting is, like, obviously when he wrote this, he still wasn't a millionaire, but now he's worth 500 million.
That much?
Yeah, he's worth 500 million.
Bloody
He's like
hell.
the fourth richest rock star. Like, can he be a blue collar guy? Like, can he hang out down the
Well,
bar?
you know,
Right?
as previously discussed on the Bon Jovi episodes, this is the problem. Like, I put this comment on the next song, but I can bring it up here. I found it quite ironic. This song and the next one, it is exactly the kind of things that Bon Jovi are singing about that we criticize, because I don't know if you know, Claire, but Bon Jovi had a country album and it was fucking terrible. And there's a lot of like the working man kind of lyrics, and it's like, and the thing is, right, okay, so this was in the 70s, so I can imagine that's the kind of stock that Bruce Springsteen sounds like, but I actually didn't know this song, and I genuinely thought his voice sounded like a parody, like, you know, like
he was doing an impression of himself.
Exactly. And I found this so syrupy and sentimental. I did not like, you know, piano and harmonica, and I was like, oh, please let them more instruments come in, but then it's more piano and a saxophone, and I was like, oh god. And then the bells, I was like, no, this is
it's just pure cheese, isn't it?
Pure cheese. And Fran, I was just very surprised that you'd picked this when you'd criticized Bon Jovi for doing similar, let's say.
Well, well, I'm not a fan of this song, hence I just wanted to show, you know, I thought I'd have a mix of songs. It'd be boring if I chose my favourite Springsteen songs. I don't really like the Glory Days Thunder Road side of Bruce Springsteen, but I don't know what you guys think, so I thought I'd offer up to taking.
Okay, delighted.
And then next up, we have a change of direction and another song from a film, The Wrestler from 2009. And have you seen The Wrestler, guys?
I have not, no. Yeah,
I have.
Is it good?
Well, tell us your thoughts on The Wrestler.
It's an absolutely incredible film, and I mean, they couldn't have cast it any better. It stars Mickey Rourke as basically a kind of out of the limelight wrestler whose glory days are very much behind him, and he's trying to kind of make money doing these awful sort of street fights where they really hurt each other, and his life's basically a fucking, you know, trash can fire. He's in a mess. He's living in a trailer. His daughter doesn't want anything to do with him. You know, he's an alcoholic who constantly goes to strip clubs, and he falls in love with a woman there, and it's kind of just following the other side of fame, you know, the look at what life might be like for someone who is like a fallen celebrity, and it just does it so fucking well, because you just feel he's absolutely living that part, Mickey, because he's also, you know, in his own private life very much on that same trajectory, you know, a star who kind of had his days as some real hot hunk, had too much surgery and too many drugs and you know, the tragic actor's path, and he just does it with such aplomb. It's such a believable film, and and almost painful to watch in parts, you know. It's painful. There's some really tragic scenes, and I well recommend The Wrestler. It's a brilliant film. So
Babs, the film ends with this song, and I think once you've experienced the emotional movie, like, this really resonates, and I did cry when I first heard this in the film, because I am a loser. And,
that's nice. That's good.
And without seeing the film, I wonder what you think of it, because I mentioned earlier off mic that when Bruce Springsteen first started, he was compared to Bob Dylan, and you can really notice it here. This is basically like a Bob Dylan-esque track, you know. Although I don't know how a one-legged dog can walk down the streets at all. I don't know that's a thing, Bruce.
I mean, two-legged dog with help, or one, but one-legged, that might be more tricky. So it was specifically for this song I wrote, I feel like so many people make fun of Bob Dylan, but not enough of Bruce Springsteen, because bloody hell, this is a cliche. I think the way it starts, it's not at all what I would expect a Bruce Springsteen song to be. It's like ethereal synthy strings, but then the acoustic guitar comes in and he starts talking about a one-trick pony and a one-legged dog, and I was like, no, Bruce, why have you done this to me? Come on. Because I thought, oh, okay, it's 2009, it's probably going to be a bit different. And also the way it finishes, it's quite, I wrote wet. It fades out. It's like he couldn't be bothered. And the lyrics, I mean, obviously talked about the pony and the dog, but the lyrics, have you ever seen a one-legged man trying to dance his way free? If you've ever seen a one-legged man, then you've seen me. I was just like, what am I hallucinating here? What is going on? So if it comes at the end of a very emotive film, precisely that's about overcoming a lot of stuff, I can imagine that you perceive this a bit differently. But yeah, just by itself, it didn't do much for me, I'm afraid.
Interesting. So yeah, so I think definitely you need to have this in the same subtext as the movie. So I did have a different song to end my playlist, but I forgot that we had discussed it last year because I wanted to put something like more modern. So so I then thought, okay, when I rediscovered Bruce Springsteen, the song that we loved at work was Outlaw Pete from the same album as the rest of but a very different sounding Bruce. And I think that Barrett will fucking hate this. To me, it's like there's a rock opera. This is a rock western. It goes on for 8 minutes, and it has like Ennio Morricone harmonicas. It's like a tale about an outlaw being a criminal since the age of 6 months, was it something? 6 months, 3 months or something.
Very young.
But it's an 8-minute song, but I never get bored of it because it constantly changing. It keeps changing all the time. And the guitar section sounds just like Kiss. I was made for loving you, baby.
Oh, it does, that arpeggio, yeah. It does.
But I adore the ending. It slows down and has the Ennio Morricone harmonica sound like you would have in The Good, Bad and the Ugly. And then it sort of gets all slow, and then the strings comes up, and then the guitar comes in at the end, a bit like in November Rain, Guns N' Roses, with like a down, 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 and Bruce singing, "Can you hear me?" And who what's that at Glastonbury 2009? It's spectacular. So I love it because I'm a pretentious prick who likes overlong songs with glorious melodic guitar, but I fear the worst that you guys may fucking hate this. So Babs, tell me how much you hate the song.
I don't hate this song.
Goodness gracious me.
Yes, though I think Claire might have a different opinion from what she just said. But yeah, so I will couch the blow. So I much preferred this to The Wrestler or Thunder Road for sure. I didn't realize it was 8-minute song. I think that was part of it. So I was listening to it. I was like, oh yeah, all right, this isn't too bad. And then I went back on Spotify and I was like, why is this taking? Oh, okay, I'm 4 minutes in. I'm halfway through. It starts in a quite tense way. I quite like the strings and the electric bluegrass guitar. I think the harmonica is used nicely. I like the verses, but I don't like the chorus. So the I'm Outlaw Pete thing, I wasn't so much of a fan, but because the song is so long and there's so many verses and it really feels like a journey, like you say, it feels like a Western. I appreciated it. Although I wrote ending is cynical and I can't remember why. Why I don't know why I wrote that, but that is how I felt. Maybe it just ended in a very kind of triumphant way, and I thought, no.
Yeah, it's very triumphant.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, Claire.
I probably need to listen to it a couple of times. It might be one of those songs that's a bit of a grower. Maybe that's the nicest thing I can think to say of it. I found it instantly really bloody irritating. I think it took me back to sort of scout camp and being around the fire and singing campfire songs, actually.
Childhood trauma, yeah, understandable.
Yeah, I think it triggered me. I think it just triggered me about, dodgy scout leader. So yeah, that's right. Yeah, just never gave me any schmores. Nothing more dodgy than that. I genuinely didn't like it, so I didn't actually get through the whole thing. And I think I found the sort of the melodic line in it just really clunky. Oh god, it's really clunky and obvious and almost sounds to me like a child playing a sort of xylophone or something at Christmas. Ding 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 ding. Oh, I don't know, there's just something really irritating about it. So yeah, this one was definitely my least favorite Outlaw P, even though I'd imagine that I'd love something like that was a bit of a narrative and it's got a bit of a tale, something a bit like I Shot the Sheriff comes to mind, that kind of, a story of something. But yeah, I think I just found the melody too irritating to get past, to enjoy any other aspect of it.
Have you ever seen Bruce Springsteen live, Claire? Because I feel like, Fran, what you were saying, you saw this live, I'm sure it's an epic. But
oh yeah, like watching him, I think I watched him at Glastonbury on TV. I then watched him in real life in 2012, and yeah, he's like, it's insane how he can perform for 3 hours, and like he plays every song and gives it all. It's just
An amazing
for being his
performer, yeah.
being in his 60s, or he's now in his 70s, and to constantly run around the stage, and he runs into the audience and he high fives everyone, he hugs everyone. You know, he could easily just stand there and play the guitar and just sing the hits. You know, he gives it all, and you've got to really
admire that. Yeah, oh, absolutely. I've not seen him live, but I'm really aware of his reputation for being a really, really amazing live performer, you know, maybe on a par with someone like Mick Jagger, who's the same. You know, he never fails to give it less than his all. You know, for a man of advancing years, it's genuinely impressive, isn't it? Even to be on tour, you know, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, saying that, I don't get to go round in a massive luxury coach with young people massaging my feet, etc., etc. I can't imagine their lives are too dreadful. I'm sure they've reached a point of being treated rather well. But yeah, I've not seen him live, but I definitely would if the opportunity came about. I would go check out Bruce Springsteen, definitely.
There's not many artists who are in the 70s that I still listen to.
No.
The music is quite rare, to be fair. His album last year, I thought was, again, a decent album. And I'm surprised that he's still doing it 40 years later. Is there any tracks which we haven't discussed which you would love, Claire, by your boss?
I guess probably Dancing in the Dark is a classic. I love that song. It's real metaphor, isn't it, of surviving through difficult times, and it's a beautiful love story. I love Dancing in the Dark, actually. Yeah, it's without a doubt my favorite.
Perhaps do you dance in the dark?
I'm not Courtney Cox Arquette, so unfortunately I do not dance very much to Dancing in the Dark. I do know that video reference. Not really. You know, I don't even know if I know Born to Run, honestly. I really disengaged with Bruce Springsteen because, like I said, it's Americana country. And I feel with Bruce Springsteen, similar to what I felt in REM and Disgust, it's like, I'd love to love him. I'd love to be into someone who, you know, is in his 70s and still going strong. In Belgium, there's a guy called Arnaud, and I saw him live at a festival, and he was 65, and similarly, like, it was incredible. You felt like you were watching an absolute legend, and everyone was singing the songs. Like, I think I knew about one. And there's something very special about that. And you really respect someone who can keep doing that. I think Iggy Pop is the only one I can really think of who I've listened to stuff of his recently, and that's very varied. But no, I just haven't really engaged with Bruce. And
he wrote a song for Harry Potter.
No, I did not. What was it called?
He's a big Harry Potter fan, and he wrote a song for the first film called "I'll Stand By You Always." And
really?
Rowling turned it down because she didn't want to have any
American influence in it at all.
Wow.
Oh, poor Bruce.
He'll be fine.
Imagine being rejected.
I know.
When you're Bruce Springsteen and you've written a song for something, you just assume, wouldn't you? You just have an ingrained sense of entitlement, and you wouldn't even predict at all that you'd be rejected.
Apparently he's called the boss. Was where in the early days when he would tour with the E Street Band, he always made sure that they got paid, and then he'd go around and make sure that every member was given money before they left the building. And that's why he's called the boss. There we go.
Nice little anecdote there.
So, Babs, after listening to these tracks, do you think Bruce Springsteen is over or underrated?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. These tracks didn't convince me. I appreciated Streets of Philadelphia a bit more, but that was it, basically. I think I would like to maybe see him live. I think that would change my opinion, but for 3 hours, if he's playing songs that I don't like, I would like to see him live in a way that I can quickly escape if I can.
Claire, Bruce Springsteen, over or underrated?
I think that he's in the place where he should be. You know, he's loved and admired by many people. So I would say neither overrated nor underrated. I think that he's loved as much as he should be. And I can't imagine that he's going to be reaching out to the younger generation unless your parents were particular Bruce fans and have kind of instilled that on you. But I imagine that that people of a certain age will really love Bruce, and that perhaps he'll remain underrated for young people. But that's as close as I'm coming to giving him an over or under rating, doing it by proxy of a whole other group of humans.
If you're amazing live and you've tried lots of different styles of music, and you can feel a best of CD, then you're not overrated. I think I should probably listen to more Bruce, and I haven't for some bizarre reason. So I will say that he is not overrated.
I think when someone has as big a back catalogue as he does, it's just really daunting sometimes. I find that with like Kate Bush, David Bowie, same thing. I'm like, I think I like more than I think I do, but I have no idea where to start, and life is short. So
Yeah, fair enough.
Do you like music? Do you like podcasts? Do you like your hosts that are slightly eloquent with their words and well spoken and articulate them in a perfect way? Then you can find 2 out of those 3 things on Pick a Disc. I'm your host Matt Latham, and each fortnight a guest comes onto the podcast to talk about an album that they want to talk about for whatever reason they want to. We talk about the artist, we talk about the songs, and we also talk about the album, and we never talk about the artwork because I always forget. Other than that, we always talk about the good things and why people like what they like, and you'll find that a lot in Pick a Disc. So find us on all your favourite podcatchers of choice, and I look forward to finding out the discs that you're picking.
Underrated.
And we're now going to be discussing the underrated selection, Frazey Ford. You saw her recently, didn't you, Claire?
Very recently, yes. And I've not been aware of her for a really, really long time. I became aware of Frazey Ford probably about 3 or 4 years ago, just through a friend. Through a friend was going round for dinner to a friend's house, and they had her playing through their computer. And I said, wow, who's this with this really amazing voice? And they introduced me to Frazey Ford. And so I don't think I actually downloaded any albums. She just became one of my Spotify people, you know, in my playlists, in my random playlists, and just kind of grew to just love some of her songs, as opposed to being, you know, really in love with particular albums, but just really in love with some songs. And then noticed that she's on the same record label as me. My record label are also like literary agents as well, so they have poets and performance poets, comedians on their books, as well as musicians. And so, yeah, we're on the same label. And so I contacted Phil, my manager, and she said, oh my God, you've got Frazey Ford, who I really, really love. And he said, yeah, she's playing in Bristol in like a couple of days' time. If you want to go and see her, I'll put you on the guest list. So yeah, got to go and see her. And she was fantastic. I absolutely loved her live, because you never totally know, do you know, if someone's gonna, you know, translate to the live stage, if someone can really sort of hold a tune together. But they were absolute professionals. They just felt like they've been doing it forever. They were so tight, one of the tightest live bands I've ever seen. And the backing vocalist and her, their singing together was just like lush, just everyone kind of swaying in time. And it's not, you know, it's not like dance your ass off music, but it's got this really nice rhythm and blues kind of feel to it, and just, yeah, it sways. Her music really kind of swings. Very, very soulful. She's got vocals kind of similar to LP again. I think I said earlier, just this real timbre in her voice that she controls really, really well, and takes it all over the place. She really uses her voice as you know, as another instrument in the mix, and lovely on stage, just so kind of chilled. A bit like Adele, that feeling of just really at ease with the audience. You're having a chat with a room full of mates. Very funny, very confident. And, you know, something I really particularly love about her is, she's a mum. She's in her 40s. She's got quite older kids. You know, I'm a mum. I'm in my 40s. So she totally, you know, speaks to me personally about where I'm at in my life. And her body is that of a mum in her 40s, you know. She's got big hips, big, nice mama's boobs. And she's fucking rocking it in her videos, you know. She's totally confident. And it's so nice to see, you know, an older woman with that kind of confidence and that body shape, just, yeah, rocking it and owning it. And she's great. She's a great role model, you know, for older women, well, for women in general.
We asked Claire to pick 5 tracks. Babs, you've listened to the playlist. What was your first thoughts on Frazey?
So yeah, I didn't want to do too much research on Frazey, especially because I was scared because I don't know you, Claire, and I was like, oh god, if I'm gonna hate this woman, it's gonna be a bit tricky. But I was reassured when I read this review that said, okay, it's swing with a mellow neo soul beat enlivened by buttery vocals. I was like, hello, is this food or music? Great, I don't know. And I read like one article about her and I saw some pictures, and absolutely, she's a curvy lady, and she talks about like she deliberately loves to wear bright clothes, and people come up to her and they're like, oh, you know, like you've brightened up my day. So I was like, oh, I really hope I like some of her stuff. And also she's Canadian and we all love a Canadian. So yeah, I was going in after reading that, I went in a little bit less scared. What about you, Fran?
I, again, had never heard of her myself. Most people reading comments say that they love her voice, and I don't love her voice. And I'm thinking, oh no, is this going to be like a Joanna Newsom situation for me? Because that's someone.
What is the Joanna Newsom situation?
Or hate, I can't handle Joanna Newsom's vocals.
Okay.
I find it hard to get past it, unfortunately.
I imagine, yeah. Do you know, I was going to say this is one of my points. If you happen to find her voice annoying, a bit like Heather Small's voice, you know, the singer from People, if it irritates you, it's going to really irritate you, isn't it? A voice like that, it's going to really scratch you up the wrong way. I love it, but it's an absolute Marmite voice, isn't it? If you don't like it, you're really not going to like it. So, oh dear, sorry, Fran, love, sorry about that.
But that's my first impression. You guys have no idea what I think of her tracks. So back to the playlist, Claire.
My first track was Lovers in a Dangerous Time. And I've chosen all of these to correspond specifically with the Bruce tracks, whether or not it's something to do with the lyrics or even just the title of the song or the style of the song. I've tried to kind of line them up. And obviously the reason I've chosen this is Lovers in a Dangerous Time is it corresponds to the subject matter of the Bruce song Streets of Philadelphia, about gay lovers living in a dangerous time during a pandemic. So that was the connection. And this is a really modern song. This is really recent. And it's basically about trying to be freaking happy in our world right now, where we've got climate change and the rise of the fascist right and lots and lots of difficulties in our world right now. And that's basically what this song is about, being lovers in a dangerous time. So yeah, trying to hold down a positive, loving relationship while the world is going to shit around your ears. So it's a really thought-provoking song and hopeful as well. You know, there's a lot of hope that comes through it, even though that sounds pretty bleak. And I'd say that hope and gratitude and sort of inner strength are definitely themes that run through her work. You know, she's a strong, resilient human, and I really like her for that. And it's just got her classic rhythm and blues rhythm that's kind of running through everything. I mean, I will say straight away that my one criticism, I guess, if it is a criticism, is they're pretty samey. You know, they're pretty samey, her songs. You get that rhythm and blues rhythm. There's not too much variation from that. Personally, I love it, so I can kind of take it forever and ever. But yeah, she's got a very, very definite style, Frazey. And I would say that the poetry of her lyrics is another real strength that sets her apart from other singers for me. I'm a massive fan, obviously, of spoken word and language, and there's a lot of depth there if you can get past the bit. Listen to what she's actually saying.
You know, this is a cover, yeah?
Yeah. What? Which one? Lovers in a Dangerous Time.
The first two. This is from 19...
I know that One More Cup of Coffee is a cover. I didn't know
this is from Bruce Cockburn from 1987.
No,
it's like an 80s banger.
Oh, no way. Wow.
See, I got confused as well because I went to look it up and the first thing that came up was Bare Naked Ladies. And I was like, what? It's a Bare Naked Ladies song. And then I was like, oh no, that's also a cover. It really confused
also
me.
A cover. Oh my God. And so who is it again?
Bruce
Say the
Cockburn.
name again. Another Bruce.
Another
Bruce.
Bruce.
A Canadian Bruce
Another
this time. But yeah.
Another Canadian Bruce again. That's why I chose it, really, because I knew. Oh, well done. You found my hidden.
It sounds like 80s Joan Armatrading. That's what I feel.
Oh, very,
like
very
like
well observed.
Like a sparkly guitar line. So give it seriously, it's completely different to her version.
Right. Right. Oh, well, I'll have to check out his original version. And I'm giving him credit for being a great poet as well. So he obviously is. Well done, him. And I knew the second one was a Bob Dylan cover. And partly the reason that I chose that was because of Bruce's likening to Bob Dylan as well. So I saw a real connection there. And One More Cup of Coffee, I put that with Glory Days because it's kind of about holding on to something and not wanting to let something go. One more cup of coffee before I leave, you know. So there's this clinging on, this hanging on, a little bit like with Glory Days. And I love her version of this. I think it just, her voice works absolutely beautifully with the lyrics of this and the melody of this. And it's probably my favorite of hers in this list, even though it's a cover, which is probably a bit naughty to choose some cover songs, but tough.
Fine, but Claire, one second.
Didn't know the first one was though.
I need to ask Babs about her thoughts on Lovers in the Dangerous.
Yeah, so when Lovers in a Dangerous Time started, I thought, this isn't for me, but I didn't dislike it. And I really like her voice. And I think it's not just liking her voice, it's the way that it pairs with the acoustic and the bluegrass guitar. And I really understood the sort of neo soul label because there is something about it being quite R&B-esque. And with this song and the next song, I wrote, is it like sludge acoustic, if that's a genre? Because it's acoustic and quiet, but it stretches out in the second. Like I don't like much metal, but I actually do like sludgy metal because like there's something quite nice about a powerful, slow sound. So I didn't save One More Cup of Coffee or Lovers in a Dangerous Time to my playlist, but I very much did add it to my chilled playlist and will enjoy listening to it when I'm in that kind of contemplative mood. But yeah, what about you, Fran?
Cool. So both of these come from her debut. Is it Obadiah? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Obadiah, which am I allowed to interject quickly with a great fact about that? It's just so good. It's her middle name. She's called Frazey Obadiah Ford. And she was given that name because her older brothers were allowed to give her middle name when she was born. So they named her after the cat that had recently run away.
It's Fifi Trixabel all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
And she previously was, is it Be Your Tanya or
Be More Tanya's?
The Be Good Tanya's.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the Be Good Tanya's.
Is that very different to her? Because that's I wanted to ask you. Like, is it very different? Is it her really kind of doing her own thing, or is it a bit more of the same? Being more...
It's pretty similar. You can kind of hear where it's come from. It's a slightly bigger sound, I think, the Be Good Tanya's, but it's much of a muchness. Yeah, it is.
But as you say, if you like it, of course, you're going to recommend it. Yeah.
So a voice I was struggling with, but I really love the original version of this, and this matches the lyrics more than his version because it's more a laid back, romantic sort of energy to it. You can imagine the sun going down, and and lovers embracing, and but I did struggle with the next track, the One More Cup. And I listened to the Bob Dylan version of Desire, and that's great. I really like the Bob Dylan with the backing with the violin and everything, and like. Well,
it almost makes it worse, then, doesn't it? If you really like the original and you're not mad keen on the cover, it's just going to exemplify that contrast. Now I really don't like the cover.
Although Bob Dylan's version does sound a little bit like Hotel California.
Yeah, well noticed. Yes, I wouldn't have noticed that, but yeah, you're right, it does a little bit.
But not my usual cup of tea, but
or cup of coffee.
Hate the playlist. So let's move on to the next track.
Yeah, let's move on to the next track
because the video to this is beautiful.
Oh, it's just so superb, isn't it? And I mean, this is her big hit, and she played this in Bristol, and the crowd went wild in that very sort of organic chutney middle class wild way, as in they just clapped ever so slightly louder. So yeah, this is definitely one of her big kind of iconic hits, definitely for her fans, and it's a pure anthem for the divorcee who's just settled on the house, or the gay couple who've recently separated in an absolute kind of car crash spectacular ending. It's brilliant. It's a proper kind of power hit. There's some great lines in this. My joy takes nothing from you. Beautiful line. In fact, she had some little enamel pins made with that lyric on it, like written out like a sort of tattoo wrapped around a rose. It was really cool. I bought one. And the other line, you're waiting for me to fuck up so you've got some proof. And it's perfect example of someone who's got out of a really toxic, controlling relationship, and you know, I'm done with you. And the video is just beautiful, isn't it? Just absolute power, stepping down the street with her, you know, sister mama's by her side, wearing all her cool clothes, and she's just got that real kind of calm, I'm done with your shit look. Doesn't give a fuck if she looks young, hot and sexy, but she looks fucking sexy anyway because she's sexy. And you know, but yeah, she's great. She's great, and she's not afraid to be a mum, you know. She's not trying to hide that. She's not trying to hide the fact that she's got a mum's body. She's making that part of her cool. And a big part of the video is her leaving with her boys in a traveller, in a camper van, and you kind of get a real insight into her life from that, which, you know, when I did a bit of research on her life, yeah, absolutely, she came from a really liberal childhood. Her dad was a conscientious objector, so she had this very kind of free-spirited hippie-ish upbringing, and you can see in that video that's very much a part of what she's doing with her kids. You know, they're traveling, they're hanging with lots of groovy organic gardeners doing groovy organic things.
There's a lovely scene of her pumping gas. This is, you know, I've never seen someone more sexy with
I've got to go watch this video. Clearly, like, you're selling
Hot lady pumping gas is what I'm all about.
I'm all about it. Yeah, totally.
I thought this was the best track so far.
Oh yeah,
it's like country music meets gospel, if that's a thing.
It totally is. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's got an evangelical sound to it.
You remember that song, like in the noughties? What's it called? So fuck you.
Yeah, CeeLo Green.
No, it's like the other one by Frankie.
Oh,
like
fuck you, you hoe! But then, yeah, that one.
But the female version. Yeah, I thought this is like that for the black coffee generation.
Oh yeah, very good, very good.
But yeah, and I love songs where they have like angry lyrics but a breezy melody.
Yeah.
Totally. You had no idea how angry she comes.
Oh, it's a razor blade in a velvet glove, isn't it? Yeah, totally. It is. It is. You've absolutely said it. It's, you know, it's almost this sickly sweetness. You know, she's got all that lovely, jingly jangly kind of high guitar, melody going through it with really, really angry lyrics. Yeah. I am not putting up with your shit anymore.
She said in an interview that one of her highlights is when one of her kids likes her Instagram posts.
Yeah, she feels like she's totally made
that's
it.
That's so 21st century mum. That's amazing.
It so is. Yeah. It so is.
I mean, I have to say, to rain on this parade a little bit, I think this was actually my least favourite of the
really,
song. So
really?
I can't deny the catchiness of the her saying I'm done. You really, really feel it. But there's honky tonk piano, there's some horns, and it left me cold, basically. So I think I need to reconsider and watch the video and the sexy lady at the gas station, and maybe I will see it a bit differently. So
I reckon.
Yeah, I think the video is definitely one to watch.
It is. The video really sells it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah.
With a change of tone, moving on to your next choice.
Yeah, moving on to the next one is You Can Be the Sun, which irritates the life out of me straight away, being absolute grammar police. So not using correct terms, but kin obviously being family, something in there about kith and kin and closeness. And this is the title of her latest album. So this is the title track. Beautiful song. And which one did I liken it with? Right, I put this one with The Wrestler. And I guess I put these two together because there's something about, look, you are still in control of your own life. You can choose to be who you want to be. It's an empowering song. It's about just remembering your divinity, remembering you are the light, and you can do a lot of good in the world. And I guess it was a kind of prayer to that character in The Wrestler of don't give up. Things aren't completely fucked. You can be the sun. And it's it's very poetic, this one. It's very poetic. It's definitely a bit cosmic. You know, she's kind of singing all groovy things about us being universal and made of hydrogen and helium, and how we're all basically star children, which we are. And so it's really positive. And the video is really nice. The video, she loves obviously having her friends in videos and her kids in videos. So there's no kind of actors or actresses all looking polished and gorgeous. They're all full of totally ordinary looking people, which is so reassuring and refreshing. And they're all kind of low budget. There's no massive production value on any of them. There's no big sort of CGI or anything happening. And this one's just got all these flashes of like nebula in space and the solar system and the galaxies and the planets. It's just loads and loads of kind of space imagery fired up over someone's face. So it's great, along with You Can Be the Sun, which is really positive. And it's just another great rhythm and blues kind of track. It's got a little bit of a faster groove to it, this one, so you can swing your hips a little bit more fluidly to this one, I reckon. So I think in terms of the upbeatness of her tracks, this one's the most positive, I think, in terms of the musicality of it, and I love it.
What's your thoughts?
So You Can Be the Sun is by far my favorite. I really like this, and again, did not watch the video, so it seems like I'll have to add to it. I was intrigued by the title, and I hadn't made the connection that kin could be family. I was just like, it's just because she does repeat it over and over, and I'm like, does she just enjoy saying it kin? I don't know. The bass is incredible, and I'm a bad bass player, so I appreciate it when people do it well. And I also wrote, here it's gospel spiritual, but then it also has these very dreamy guitars. It's almost shoegazy. So I saved this one. Definitely will be re-listening to it. I thought it was incredibly original. Definitely my favorite. Fran?
Well, so I can hear Nina Simone and Aretha Franklin combined. And I then saw her being interviewed, and she name-checked both of them. So I thought, okay. It's got jazz piano. It's got a lovely space between the piano and the guitar, which I enjoy. The drums is kind of up front. It's got beautiful, soulful backing vocals. So I enjoy the idea of it. I don't think I'd listen to it again. Don't hate me. But I preferred it to the first two tracks. How's about that? Is that good?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
it is different. Great. Like, I think when you said, Claire, it's all samey. Like, I think it's definitely the same in, I'd say, atmosphere. But actually, I did think there was a difference. Yeah, and the harmonies here were lovely. Like,
well, it's I'm gonna have to listen to it all again. Yeah, listen to the kind of that evangelical thing that you've both been talking about. You've both mentioned that, and it's interesting. I can hear that in there. Yeah, definitely that very high soprano kind of vocal backing sort of sound coming in as well, giving it that really angelic choral sort of sound at points, along with definitely the drum, the rhythms up front, giving it that real kind of it's got a real drive to it, this one, hasn't it, that the others maybe don't have. It's definitely a more powerful song. And lastly but leastly is a bit of a kind of, it's kind of a protest song, but it's actually, I think in terms of her relationship with her kids as a mum and relationship with kids as a whole, this is really beautiful. The kids are having none of it. It's all about kids protesting about the state of the world and how bright kids are, and they're not buying into capitalism in the same way, and they're absolutely busting gender identity down the middle and absolutely doing things their own way, and fucking angry that we've all shat on the planet. And there's lyrics in there about, get out of the way, you've really had your day. And it's about kids kind of taking over and in a good way, and it's a very hopeful track, actually, in a lot of ways. I think it's really empowering to kids. It's not, it's not at all piss-takey. It's actually crediting young people with an enormous amount of political awareness and intelligence and integrity. And I really, really love that about this. And there's some almost slow drum and bass elements in this one. It's I think this is the most different of all of them, actually. This one, the last one, I got some more, honestly, some almost like 90s dance music influences out of it. less so the sort of bluegrass Americana. So I kind of heard something different going on here. And it's a close toss-up for me between this one and Done, because you just get a sense that she really loves her kids in this too, and that's massively important to her in her music. In interviews, she talks about, just how massive it is in terms of her being an artist, and the way that she engages with the world is totally different because she's a mum. So, and being a mum myself, I just feel this massive connection with her, actually, a kind of kinship with where she's at in her life. So yeah, I think maybe this one's my favorite. I think I prefer this one even more than Done, although I think musically I prefer Done. I could kind of dance more to that, but in terms of the lyrical content, which is so hugely important for me, I think I choose this one as my favorite. The kids are having none of it.
Babs, what's your thoughts?
So I really appreciate the bass and her voice. And I think now that you've talked about, I had no idea she was a mum, but that didn't, in the article that I scanned, that didn't come about. That makes it even stronger, because it's nice to hear an older person being like, the kids are all right, but actually it's obviously very personal for her. But actually, I think I need to listen to it again, because I wrote that for me, it's very similar to the first two. So my overall feeling was, it's not for me, but I can understand why people like it. But I will say that lyrically, she is amazing, and you can really see that. And I think I really need to see the videos to this to add that extra layer, because I think I'm going to get more out of it, / seeing her live. Yeah.
I think they are very much videos that really add. Some videos don't, do they? You kind of watch it and, it takes something away. These really do add. They're so human. They're just so human. There's something really real about them, and you feel like you could be, I don't know, just watching your friend down the road having a moment about her kids and her family. There's something very familiar feeling about and accessible about her videos.
Have you heard of Brittany Howard?
Alabama Shakes lady?
Yes,
Yeah.
because this sounds a lot like Brittany Howard. I think if you enjoy this,
I'm writing the name down.
Although Brittany Howard maybe brings, I say more to the table, not as a slight, but like she has maybe more going on. This is a bit more stripped down, isn't it? I think that she said that she wrote this song. That's literally, I think this album, she would go in with a bass and drum, and then she'd play piano and then just like improvise, and then she'd play it back, and then she just choose the bits she liked, which is why it's got that sort of like jazzy sort of groove.
I was just going to say, it's got a jazz feel to it then, hasn't it? Yeah. Vocally, she sounds quite jazzy at points as well, where she's kind of really playing with the notes. She's bringing it up, she's taking it down. She's going on a journey there, and you can tell a lot of that's kind of improvised in the moment. So you can hear the jazz elements, definitely.
I read the lyrics completely wrong. I thought this was about an ex-husband and not wanting him to come and see the kids. So I'm
Brilliant.
It's amazing how you can read things in different ways.
Yeah, but I mean, I've got them in front of me. It could read like that as well, because it's like the likes of you should never hold the wheel. You've had your day. Absolutely, it could be that.
Right. It could be
it's
that.
her morning bell.
I guess you've probably got to see the video then. Yeah, the video depicts lots of young people painting protest banners.
Oh, really?
So yeah, you really get this feel. It's a political song.
So I should probably ask you the question, Babs. Do you think that Frazey Ford is underrated?
Absolutely. Even though I would say her type of music is not usually my kind of music, I had never remotely heard of her. And You Can Be the Sun for me just shows that this is someone who has the potential to be incredibly original and bring together lots of genres. Like, it doesn't surprise me, Claire, that you were talking about drum and bass and other stuff. Like, she's definitely pulling from a lot of areas, and she's a very interesting person. So yeah, even though I only saved one song to my library, I think she's underrated. Yep.
Cool.
You?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
No one cares about my thing. And I like 3 songs out of 5. I didn't like the first 2. So if what I'm hearing now is what is the direction she's taken, then that's all good. But looking at her Spotify, September Fields seems to have like 12.5 million listens.
Yeah, that's
her biggest banger, is it?
That's a lovely track, September Fields. Yeah.
So it's mostly quite big in Canada, man. That's a lot of listens.
I'm saying she's probably pretty big. Yeah. I mean, she, like I say, it was a sellout in Bristol, and Phil said she's doing really, really well. So she's obviously got a pretty reasonable British clientele. Obviously some people are aware of her. It was definitely an older audience. It was an older crowd. Who knows? I mean, I was totally unaware of the Be Good Tanyas. I think maybe vaguely had heard of them. It kind of rang a bell in my mind, but certainly not a band whose music I was aware of at all. But they might have also built up a bit of a following. But yeah, I think she's very definitely underrated, obviously.
Yeah, she's been on Jules Holland as well, I saw. So
Oh, really?
It's had some exposure. I'm happy that the journey wasn't a horrible one, and I will listen to Done again and again.
Yeah, great. And yeah, watch the video, I reckon, to Done, if you haven't already. Brilliant.
Is there any other songs, Claire, you would recommend to our listeners?
About Frazey Ford in particular, or just anything?
Frazey Ford particularly.
About Frazey Ford in particular. Well, her 3 albums. She's only got the 3. Obadiah, as I say, is her middle name. Named after the cat, is her first one in 2010. Then Indian Ocean 2014, and the most recent one, You Can Be the Sun 2020. And I would suggest anybody have a listen to Frazey Ford, because she has got a bloody marvelous voice and way with words and music.
So, Claire, if our audience wants to discover you, where can they find you?
Okay, well, just all over the place. I'm all over the internet like a rash. So even if just people Google my name, Clare Ferguson-Walker, I couldn't even say my name properly then. Clare Ferguson-Walker, I'll come up like a rash. My sculpture website is cfwdesigns.co.uk. And on Facebook, you can either come and befriend me personally or follow my pages. There's the Art of Clare Ferguson-Walker, and that's the same on Instagram. And the other thing, what's the other thing I do? Oh yeah, performing. That's there on Facebook as well. Clare Ferguson-Walker, poet and comedian, and I'm so lazy at updating that one. It's like this, honestly, it's like this neglected child, that page. You can update yourself. God, how old are you? But yeah, come and find me online. That would be great.
And thanks again. Babs, do you have any final thoughts?
God, no, my brain has absolutely gone. I think I need to go and listen. I need to go to my chilled playlist where Frazey Ford sits now and just listen to some songs, seep in. You were talking about listening to music mindfully. Definitely. That's what I enjoy about this podcast. It's like sometimes you have to be very analytical, like, okay, I'm going to sit down and think about, chord structures and lyrics. Yeah. But it's nice to then do that and go and listen to stuff. So yeah, shout out to my chilled playlist on Spotify, which I think is findable. So that's what I'll shout out.
Yay. I'll come find that. Yeah, thanks both of you for having me on. Absolute pleasure.
No worries. And goodbye, the audience.
Goodbye, the audience.
Bye.
And that's how, Claire, you end the podcast.
That concludes the Americana special. Thank you for listening. Let us know if you think Bruce Springsteen is overrated or if Frazey is underrated. It'd be nice to hear from you. And we do have social media like many other people in the world. So if you do have Twitter, we are OU Music Pod. And if you have Instagram, we are Underrated Music Pod. So give us a follow. And then, of course, subscribe to this podcast. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? And if you have any requests for any genres or artists for us to cover, let us know. And thanks again for listening, and have a lovely time.